радио, but hello, добрый день. Today we have interview with David Boadelла. We are lucky. It's a special interview with David for Georgian Biosynthesis program. David, thanks a lot that you agreed to have interview for Georgians.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to the Georgians.
Yes. And the first question, what is it biosynthesis? What is the difference between biosynthesis and other approaches?
Well, when Reich started his work, he was emphasizing catharsis, emotional expression, letting go, crying, getting angry, and so forth. And that's fine for many people, but for traumatized people, it's not very good at all. So the early Reichian movements followed Reich, and they overemphasized catharsis, especially bioenergetics. So one of the things we brought in from the beginning was catharsis is okay, but it has to be contained. It has to be in contact. And it has to be in balance with the opposite of catharsis. Catharsis is discharge. The opposite of discharge is charge. So we have to get these two things in balance. And that was our main emphasis from the beginning.
How did you came to the idea of biosynthesis?
Well, 45 years ago, I was in a group of people with somebody else leading the group. So I was working as a therapist sometimes and as a client sometimes. And I had three people working with me on a personal session, a man and his sister and his wife. And the man had trouble with boundaries, but he gave me boundaries. The wife had problems with breathing, but she helped me to breathe. And the sister had problems with eye contact, but she helped me to see. So I had eye contact, boundaries, and breath all in the same session. And they helped me very much to deal with some issues in my personal life. And then when I went back to England, because the session was in America, when I went back to England, I took these three themes and made it the basis of biosynthesis.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And how biosynthesis can help? What are the methods of biosynthesis? And what can help us to change?
Well, the first principle of biosynthesis was the live streams. The live streams came out of this session because of the three, the man and the two women, and the boundaries and the eye contact and the breathing. So then I realized that this is fundamental because of the embryological layers are there from the beginning of conception. So we have the ecto to do with eye contact and voice and understanding, the meso to do with action and movement, and the endo to do with breathing and deep feelings. So that was the first emphasis in biosynthesis. And then these three live streams all go through the neck, because from the neck, if you change the neck, you've got the flow to the voice, exodermal, you've got the flow to the diaphragm, endodermal, you've got the flow to the spine, mesodermal. So if you don't know where to work with the client, work with the neck. Then the live fields start to emerge. The live fields themselves are based on the 7 natural segments of the spine, which Reich described. And these are natural curves in the spine. So the live fields is a different concept from the live streams. And the live fields are sometimes to do with what you express. You can film them, like I move my arms, you can see my hands moving. And sometimes they're internal. You can only express them through speaking or writing or drawing.
Biosynthesis makes a very good connection between people
Yes.
in all the world. What is the secret of good connection?
I think it's to do with the contact channels. And one of the contact channels is the voice. And then you have the talking in different languages. And when we work in different languages, we have a translator. But that's only one aspect of contact. Then there's the quality of the sound of the voice, the expressive side of the voice. So we have the contact channel of the voice, we have the contact channel with the eyes, we have the contact channel with touch, we have the contact channel with the energy field. And the energy field is beyond the difference of language. And so is the touch, the difference of language, and so is the eye contact. So only the voice needs to be translated.
Mm-hmm.
And this helps people to get to know each other very well and to trust. And when we're working with touch, when we're working with the voice, we translate up from the voice, down from the voice to the body, and from the body to the voice. So that's translating not language to language, but how you express yourself and what the words come out.
Thanks. And please say some words about spirituality in biosynthesis.
I'd like to say a bit about touch before that, because touch is one of the elements of touch. And the elements of touch is air touch, helping the breathing, water touch, helping the movement, and so on. These different elements. Earth touch, helping the grounding, fire touch, helping the warmth. So we have elements for touch. And these are beyond the difference of language. This is fundamental to every culture. And then when we're touching, we have to decide who we touch, who we don't touch, when to touch, when not to touch, where to touch on the body, where not to touch, how to touch with these elements, how not to touch, how much to touch, and why we touch. So elements of touch, the principles of touch is very differentiated. We don't touch everybody, we don't touch every place.
Yes.
Next. Spirituality, I'm interested in the roots of words, what words tell us about the meanings of things. Spirituality is linked with inspiration. Inspiration is not just breathing in, it's taking in nourishment, not just physical nourishment, but nourishment for the soul, nourishment for the essence. So spirituality for us is to do with heart contact, depth of contact, the inner ground of trust. The outer ground is your work, your job, your contact with people. Your inner ground is your contact with yourself. When this contact is deep enough, that's true spirituality. And what we have to be careful of is the spiritual movements, getting dogmatic, and getting telling you how you have to be, telling you they know more about you than you do. So we're very cautious and careful about pseudo-spirituality. People who go to sects and get caught up in the great leader tells you how you have to be. We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to find contact with the inner teacher of the client, and that tells him how to be. So what one client needs is the opposite of what the next client needs. So we have to be very careful we're not imposing our method on the client. No dogmatism.
And about poetry,
Yes.
You are the poet, you like literature, English literature, maybe not only English literature, yes?
Well, I started writing poems when I was 17. So that's 80 years of writing poems, nearly 70 years of writing poems. And then when I went to university, I studied literature because I was interested in creativity of words and writing. And when you're writing poems, you're listening to your inner voice. So this is part of spirituality. Poetry, the word poem goes back to the word creativity, which goes back to growing. So it's inner growth. The poems help your inner growth. And in the groups, we're not teaching people how to write poetry, but we advise people to write down their experiences. So when they write their experience down, they're translating from the body to the word. And that helps them to remember what helped them. I'll read one of my poems at the end of this interview.
Yes, yes, it would be very nice.
Yeah.
And biosynthesis has Bhutto dance.
Yes.
Yes? What is it, Bhutto dance?
Well, Buddha dance is developed in Japan by a Japanese dance teacher who lived to be 100. And when he was 100 years old, he was still managing to move one finger. And Sylvia trained with him in Bhutto. She knows much more about Bhutto than I do. But I met Ono once or twice, when he came to Europe, when I went to Japan. And Ono was talking to me in Japanese and it was being translated. And then he asked me about what my kind of work I do, and I told him, and then he said, I see your dance. The Bhutto is his way of dancing. And biosynthesis is how Sylvia and I, our way of dancing. And the dance is the expressive life of the body. Another interesting link, I went in Brazil with a friend, a colleague, to a hotel, and we were going up the steps of the hotel, and coming down the steps of the hotel was somebody she knew. So she stopped halfway up the steps and she introduced me to this man. She said, David, this is my friend, whatever his name was. And she said, music is my therapy. And I said to him, therapy is my music. And we went up and he went down. Just a little episode.
Yes, just right, yes.
Yeah.
And I think therapy is for you is music and poetry. Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yes. And biosynthesis is popular in different countries. Why? And what is the secret of popularity of biosynthesis in all the world, in different countries?
I think because we work a lot with the body language, and the body language is universal. We work with simple basics. We try to keep it easy to understand. I worked a lot of my life with children, so I'm used to explaining things to children in simple language. We ground the theory of biosynthesis, which is quite deep, in the practice, which is quite simple. We emphasize the health beyond the problems, the inner and outer resources, and the qualities of the person. It's very important to emphasize the qualities. And
thanks. And please give advice how to be in better contact with your essence, with yourself.
Well, essence means being, means who you are. It's to do with your individuality. And individuality means being undivided. So the essence is your inner ground, your inner trust, your self-trust. And then we're trying to connect the inner ground with the outer ground. The outer ground is daily life. Your job, your work, your relationships, and your inner ground is your listening to your own needs as well as other people's needs. So yourself becomes your inner teacher. And in biosynthesis, we emphasize that the word therapy means two things. It means care and it means cure. And we're teaching that the care comes from the therapist and the cure comes from the client. We're not curing anybody. We're helping to provide the safe environment which makes it possible for the client to heal himself.
Yeah. And could you give the advice for the psychotherapist who just starts to work as a
That's an extra question, right? To spend half the time understanding the client and half the time understanding himself. So it's not only changing the client, he's changing himself. Then he says, look to see what the client can teach him, what the client's body language teaches him, and how to respond to that client differently from how he responds to other clients. So he's not doing the same thing with everybody. It's terrible when the therapist does the same thing with everybody. So emphasizing the difference, the spontaneity. and being ready to learn to change himself. And what the client can teach him, the best teacher for the therapist is the client.
And our last question was about essence, yes?
Yes.
What is it, essence in biosynthesis, and how we can be in contact with the essence, with the soul?
That's to do with what I just answered.
Yes,
so
you answered.
is the
Yes.
inner
Yes.
core of
Yes.
the person,
Yeah.
the being,
Yeah.
the self-trust,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
the heart.
Yes. Yes. You answered. Yes.
I'd like to share with you a poem.
Yes.
Is that all right now?
Yes. It would be very nice if you read your
Yes,
poem.
I do
Yes.
It was written about a month ago. It's called Past, Present and Future. I read it and then I give it to you at the end. What is past is not dead. All vital memories stay alive and help us to thrive. Thrive means to go well. From birth to now is the magic and the mystery of how we shape our life in the rhythm of individuality, creating a legacy which others can follow and carry forward tomorrow. Let us rejoice to listen to the voice of those who have gone before us, other people who have gone before. What is present is today, and how we welcome each other as we rise out of bed to greet the new sunrise and stay on earth with gratitude for each new day as we meet the challenges that come our way and celebrate with each breath before it is too late. Our presence here and now, wherever we are, we trust to follow our guiding star, that's the essence, and write the next pages of who we are. In our flow of words that carry us from near to far, in the wonder of how to create. What is in the future is partly known, as the seeds we have sown from the past and the present, as they have grown into blossoms that enrich each other and the world, as our aliveness has unfurled. And partly, this future is unknown. There can always be an unexpected surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, in the days, weeks and years to come. Not always welcome as health gets more uncertain with age, and what will come next is out of sight from our eyes. One day will come the ultimate journey out of the body, the last journey. But the heart does not die, for love stays between us forever and ever, and death can separate us never. Very touched.
Thanks.
You're very touched.
Yes, I'm very touched.
What touches you?
Yeah. Very deep sense, deep feelings, and about connection. I love connection. That is biosynthesis poetry, I think.
Right.
Yes. Thank you a lot for the poetry. Thanks a lot for the interview. And
Thank you for asking very good questions. Very deep questions.
And maybe you say something to Georgian group.
Well, I'd like to say I'm very glad that so many Georgians are interested in biosynthesis, and I hope you will find the simplicity in it and help to deal with find your own inner ground in the outer ground of the group. We're very lucky to get the biosynthesis coming to your land, and also to get you coming to our land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And madloba in Georgian language.
What?
Madloba. Madloba in Georgian language and thanks.
Oh, Madlaban. Okay. Thank you.